Becky. Welcome to my channel. I have a homeschooling video for you guys today, and it's really more of a homeschool encouragement video. We actually just started our 8th year of homeschooling this year. My oldest daughter is a senior in high school and she's already doing college classes, and my youngest daughter is in 6th grade. So I feel like after 8 years that I've really kind of come into my own as far as being a homeschool mom and giving myself grace about the things that maybe are my weaknesses and not beating myself up over those things. And so, you know, most of the time on my channel, I'm sharing homeschool curriculum reviews or like what we're using for different things. But I felt like this is just going to be a homeschooling mom encouragement video, something to maybe make you think about things that you're considering your failures or your weaknesses as a homeschool mom, and reevaluate which ones of those things are really important, which ones of those things matter, and which ones you should really just give yourself grace on, because there are some things that maybe you're not doing your best and you could do better. But there's some other things that maybe you consider failures and you beat yourself up over, but they really probably don't make that big of a difference. So for me, I have 5 things that I would consider failures on my part as a homeschooling mom, or mistakes that I have made or continue to make, or little ruts that I can't seem to break myself out of even after 8 years. These are 5 things that really I've come to embrace and realize they don't make a difference in our homeschool. My girls are still thriving, they're learning, they're growing, they're both succeeding in everything we're doing, and these 5 things for me don't matter, and I really have learned to just embrace them and kind of let them go and realize that this is the way that I am as a homeschool mom. These are some things that maybe I'm not the best at, but it hasn't affected my girls one way or the other. So if you want some homeschool mom encouragement and you want to hear the 5 things that I've kind of quit beating myself up over and learned to accept, then stay tuned. Okay, so the first thing that I used to just kick myself over was the fact that I am not a science experiment mom. I want to be. I love the idea of doing experiments. Oh, it's so fun. No, I hate it. It's messy. They never turn out the way that I want them to or they're supposed to. And then at the end, you're supposed to explain why it did or didn't work. And sometimes I don't know why it didn't work, and I don't know how to say that to my kids. So I just get intimidated by them, and I don't do them. I hate them, and I feel bad. I do feel bad because my youngest daughter, she used to be all about science experiments, and I never really did that many with her. If she did any, I would have my husband do them with her because he doesn't mind to like get in and do that kind of stuff. He's not intimidated by that, but I am, and so I never did. And I used to feel bad about that, but she has kind of also become like where she doesn't care one way or the other about them. And even if she did like them, and even if it was something that we just never did and she wanted to do them, she's still learning. She's not missing out on really anything significant by not doing these experiments. And we do other fun things that I think make up for the fact that we don't do science experiments. So if you're like me and you're not a science experiment mom, don't beat yourself up over it. And if you want your kids to see some of these experiments, there are definitely tons of YouTube videos they can watch of other people performing some of these experiments that they can still kind of see how it happens in the process and the, you know, the after, without you having to be the one to do it. So I've kind of let that go, but it used to really bother me, but I've learned to just kind of not let it bother me anymore. The second thing is a big one, and I'm still kind of like, wait a minute, why are we not doing this? I watch other people's homeschool routines and I'm like, they get up so early. They start school so early. They get so much done so early, and we don't do that. Now, there have been times that we've been better than others at getting up and starting school early, but we are not early riser people. I had a period of time when I was getting up at like 6 o'clock, 6:30 every morning, and I was getting stuff done before the girls got up, and that may be something I go back to at some point. But I'm not going to make myself do that if I'm not waking up naturally on my own at that time. Because isn't that the benefit of homeschooling? One of the benefits is to set your own schedule and to not be stuck to a rigid schedule and routine. Now, if you like that or you need that because of some other reason, maybe your kids are involved in sports and so you have to get school done by a certain time or whatever. But if you don't have that situation, you really have nowhere to be, you have no pressing things to do later, what is the point in making yourself get up and like hate getting up in the morning to start school when you can just kind of wake up and start it and ease into it a little bit easier, which is what we do. We don't get up super early. Usually it's anywhere between 8, 9, sometimes 9:30. I mean, honestly, it just depends. You know, I've got a teenager and I have some health issues, and so sometimes I just want to sleep in. And so we do, and we start school anywhere between 9:30 to 10:30, depending on how long breakfast takes. So, and that's okay. That's still plenty of time to get our work done. Now, this is mostly me and my youngest. My oldest daughter, she sometimes will get up and start earlier if she's got a lot of work that day ahead of her, because like I said, she is doing college classes. So sometimes she will get up and get started earlier, and that's something she's gonna have to figure out that I really can't figure out for her. I've tried to encourage her to think about that, and I've told her the same thing. I was like, you know, when I was in your stage of life, I did get up early. I'm in a different stage of life now. I have one child that's almost an adult, and my other child is, you know, old enough where she's not waking me up in the morning, and she's not, you know, getting up super early. So the stage of life that I'm in right now, I feel like is the stage of life I can sleep in a little bit, and I'm okay with that. I'm not gonna beat myself up over the fact that we're not starting school at 8 or 9 in the morning every single morning, because that's just not how our homeschool has gone, and that is okay. And if that's your situation, that's okay too, as long as you're getting your work done. That's the only kind of side point of that, is you still have to be getting your work done. If you and your child are not getting your work done and not getting a significant amount of work done, you know, then maybe you might have to decide we may need to get up a little bit earlier. But otherwise, if you're getting your stuff done and you're having a good full day of school, why get up super early and punish yourself if you don't want to get up early? The third thing that I used to really be upset about, and I do still wish that I could change it, but I can't. So worrying about it and fretting over it is not going to change anything. I wish that I would have had the confidence in the beginning to homeschool my oldest daughter from the beginning. She started kindergarten in 2009, I think, and at that point in my life and in that point in the world, homeschooling I don't think was even on my radar. Now, it did occur to me, that was the first time it ever occurred to me, was when she was in kindergarten, because I was pregnant with her sister, and that's when the swine flu came out, and it was super scary because she'd never been in preschool, she'd never been in daycare, so it was the first time she'd ever been away from me, so that was hard enough. And then also when the swine flu came out, I'm like, what is going on? The teachers were wearing masks, and it was so scary. And I remember thinking, I want to homeschool her, let's just take her out, you know. And I mentioned it to my husband, and he was like, no, that's crazy. And so I think if I would have been convicted enough at that point to do it, I would have kind of convinced him anyway. But I knew in my mind that really that probably wasn't necessary, and it really probably wasn't. And she stayed in public school until the middle of 4th grade. We'd already decided at that point we were going to pull her out in 5th grade and homeschool 5th grade and beyond, because at that point, with some safety concerns and things that were going on in the schools, my husband was on board with her homeschooling, and we were like, okay, we'll start homeschooling in 5th grade. Well, she was in 4th grade in public school. There were some crazy things going on at the time, and nobody in administration was taking care of it, and so we ended up pulling her out early and started homeschooling her in the middle of 4th grade. So it was good and bad in a way, because I was pregnant with her sister. I did have some health complications, and so the fact that she was in public school probably was a benefit to me in that way. I missed her terribly, but I know she loved it. She had a great time when she was in school. But I do wish now, looking back, that I would have realized that I could have done it sooner. I never thought in those first 4.5 years of her school that I had the patience to homeschool, that I was smart enough to homeschool. Like, I just thought, I can't do that. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to teach somebody to read. And it's what I've said before about other things. A lot of times you don't realize what you can do until you have to do it. And so that was how it happened with my youngest. We were homeschooling her, and I taught her to read because I had to. I didn't have an alternative. And so I realize now, looking back, I did have the patience. I am smart enough, and I could have done it from the beginning if I'd have known and had the confidence to do it back then. Little side note to you, if you just now started homeschooling, or you were thinking about homeschooling and you think, I'm not smart enough, I don't have the patience. I'm not a genius either. But most of the time, you don't have to just you don't have to know every single thing you're teaching. You're learning a lot of things right along with your child. There are so many things that I have learned with my youngest through her history or her grammar program or whatever, things I never learned in school, things I've forgotten, things that I've been doing wrong all of these years and not realizing it. And you have the teacher's manuals for a reason. You're able to see what these things are and what they mean and how to explain them. And so whether you're explaining that to your child or your child and yourself, you're going to learn a lot along the way. And you really aren't just doing it off the cuff. You have teacher's manuals, you have resources to help you. So am I a rocket scientist and a genius? No, but I feel like I am definitely smart enough to teach the basics. I have teacher's manuals for everything else. My love for my kids and my desire for them to be smart and to be healthy and productive and all those things, that is going to overcompensate for the fact that I don't know every single thing that they may need to learn. I'm going to do the research and I'm going to find the curriculum and the programs and the online teachers or whoever that are going to give them those skills, even if I can't. And the fourth thing that I really used to worry too much about, especially with my oldest, was exactly like to the T, sticking to the book of what the state says. This, and this, and this, and this has to be done exactly this way and this time and blah, blah, blah. I used to wear myself out trying to figure out exactly how I could make my daughter's curriculum fit exactly what the state said the graduation requirements are. Now, this is a very complicated situation. I still think you should follow your state as much as possible. I still think you should, because there's a reason why they have the graduation requirements set up the way they do. But in my thinking back about my own high school experience especially, there were some things that they were talking about that I thought, well, that wasn't the way it was when I was in high school, and it was good enough for us and my graduating class and the kids before me and the kids after me. You know, why are these changes the way they are? And there were some things that I realized over the course of my oldest daughter being in high school, those 3.5 years, those 3 years so far she's already completed of high school, that really aren't necessary, or they don't have to be done in that way or at that time. So this is not me telling you to ignore your state's requirements, because I don't think you should do that. It's just me saying they're graduation requirements for kids that are in public school. And it's not, I wanted my daughters to have, you know, as much of a similar education as other kids that are public school. But that being said, I feel like sometimes those requirements were stifling, and requirements that were actually keeping her from doing college classes that she wouldn't have had time to take if she was taking these kind of unnecessary things that the high school was telling, or the public school system was saying she had to have. So it was a little bit of a learning curve for me to realize that that is not set in stone. And now that I've realized that, going into when my youngest is, you know, going to be getting closer to high school, I've got a few years yet, but when she does, I will not be quite so like stressed out, white knuckling, trying to make sure I get every single thing done exactly the way the public school system says, because we're not part of the public school system. So that's a nice relief that's going to be off my shoulders when that time comes. And the last homeschool failure that I have kind of come to realize over the years is, for some reason so far, we have not been able to make a homeschool co-op work for us. We've done it a couple times. I don't know why we don't seem to be able to make it work. If you don't know what a homeschool co-op is, basically there are all different types, and they're organized different ways, and there's all different parent activity levels, and there's all different levels of like curriculum, whether it's really loose and mostly electives, or if it's really stringent academic things. There's tons of different co-ops. Now, we have only tried the one, but we tried it several years spaced apart, different leadership, different group of teachers for the most part. For some reason, maybe it's just this one co-op, but I kind of don't really want to even bother trying another one, because there really aren't that many in our area, first of all. And second of all, I just don't understand. I don't know, we could not make it work. I feel like no matter who was in leadership, it was very poorly managed. There was just, I don't know, there were definitely benefits to it. The girls did like it, and I liked that it gave me 3 hours a week that I was able to get work done for YouTube or whatever I needed to do. I would have that designated 3 hours a week. That was really helpful to me as a work-at-home mom, to have that blocked out. I knew every day, every week, I had 1 day a week where I had 3 hours of uninterrupted time. So that was a huge benefit. There were field trips and a yearbook and, you know, just social interaction and things like that, which I don't feel like the girls are missing social interaction, because they have plenty of other friends other places. But I think it was an added place for them to know, like, the same group of kids that we're going to see once a week. So definite benefits for it, but really, honestly, it was leadership. Now, maybe it's just this co-op that we tried, but we tried it twice. We tried it when there was a different group of leaders both times, and it just never worked out, and I don't know why. And I think for us, a lot of the issue is going to be there aren't really many other co-ops in our area, or there aren't ones that don't require a crazy amount of money and or parent involvement. Now, I know that sounds like a jerky thing to say, but when you're a stay-at-home mom and a work-at-home mom and a homeschooling mom, you really appreciate even a couple hours a week to have some undivided time to do what you need to do. A lot of parents would leave. I would stay on site with my laptop and do work that I needed to do. But I was not willing to pay and then have basically go to a job and work. If that makes me a jerk, then I'm sorry, but that was one of the benefits for me of the co-op, was to have this time where the kids are being taught by somebody else and I would have time to work. It's how I have had to do things to balance my work-at-home mom, stay-at-home mom, homeschool mom life. It's just the way that it is. So there's so many other co-ops that require like crazy amount of parent involvement, or you have to teach a class and you have to pay a lot of money, and I really was not looking to that. So I'm not 100% on the fact that we will never do one again with my youngest. My oldest is too old. But I'm not actively looking, and I'm not actively upset about it anymore. I definitely could feel the difference when we stopped our co-op, that I was missing those 3 hours a week of work time. That has been part of the reason why I've had to drop down a little bit on my upload schedule, just because I don't have time to upload consistently 2 or 3 times a week without any time that's like set aside to work. So it's been 1 video a week for a while now, and that's okay. I feel like that's still enough and it's more manageable for me, but that is part of the reason, is I don't have that time anymore. So like I said, it's not to say that we won't ever do it, but if you don't ever join a homeschool co-op group, don't feel like your kids are going to be just missing out terribly. I mean, there are some benefits of it that they may not have the benefit of, but if you're keeping them active in sports or church or other activities and groups, and they have friends at other places, they're getting socialization other places, you do not have to have a homeschool co-op to do those things. It's just kind of the icing on the cake. You know, you may have field trips, you may have a yearbook, you may have little activities and stuff, but other than that, they're not going to miss out on anything significant by not being part of a homeschool co-op. So I've kind of come to learn to accept that. I've not completely written it off, but it's definitely not it's definitely not on the list of active things that I worry about anymore. So those are my 5 homeschool realities that I have come to embrace and give myself grace on and learn to accept. I hope it encouraged you. I'm sure you have a list, maybe just as long or longer than mine, of things or ways that you feel like maybe you're not doing what you should be doing, or maybe you're not doing what this person on YouTube is doing, or maybe you're not doing what your other homeschool friends are doing. That's okay. At the end of the day, the main thing is that you and your kids are happy, that your kids are learning and they're not, you know, significantly behind, and you're doing your very, very, very best to make sure they're learning what they should be learning, and they are succeeding and they're growing. That's what matters. That is kind of your core of what matters most. Everything else just kind of is a layer on top, but your core, as long as your core is strong, you know, just like in your body, when your core is strong, it supports the rest of you. It's the same thing with homeschooling. If your core is there and your kids are growing and thriving and learning, that's what matters most. I hope this video encouraged you. If it did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to share some of your homeschool realities that you've just come to embrace and accept, definitely leave those in the comments for me. I would love to hear kind of some of the things that you have learned to let go. Also, I will link my homeschooling playlist for you in the description box. Every homeschool video I've made is in that playlist. I think there's like 200 or something of them now. So tons of homeschool videos, homeschool day in the life, homeschool curriculum reviews, all that good stuff is in that playlist. So check that out, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.